All right, we are live, and just going to wait a few seconds, make sure that YouTube and StreamYard are talking to each other. And StreamYard has a few new features that I'm not real thrilled about, so I'm making sure I'm not affected by those. And it looks like we're all talking to each other, so welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host, Ed Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to the channel. Um, Today we'll be looking at what type of atheist are you. I found this little video. I was just, you know, doing my normal atheist searches, and this is a new channel called Quiet Inquiry. It has like 500 subs, and it did this little video about what type of atheist you are. And I always get anxious about titles like that because I've reacted to several other like theist, what type of atheist are you videos, and it's usually not very flattering and all that stuff. So there's that aspect of it. This time I did watch this one through because I wanted to know what I was getting into. I don't know how controversial this guy will be. He's actually very thought provoking in some respects, and I don't know, but I do feel like every time I talk about atheism, people want to make it more than what it is. I kind of feel that way with this guy. So, and he's not like negative about it either. So we're not here to bash on somebody tonight, but more of a intellectual. Let's take a look at what type of atheist are we. The problem I had with watching this video, as you'll probably see, is there's elements of me in all of them. So because he's going to give 4 different types, but in the meantime, there is a goal in chat. I changed the goals for Saturday just a bit. If we hit 5, I'll wear whatever hat's done in the poll. And if I hit 10, then the Holy Bunny Camp will come out as the second hat of the night. So that's how Saturday is going to work. Um, more more donations equals a possibility of the Holy Bunny hat. And I will count donated memberships towards that as well. I'll just have to keep track of that separately. But that's my fun way of raising funds for my channel and for myself. So thank you very much for that. Giving a shout out. Let's see, where's Fred's comment? Hold on. Yes, me and Fred were partially here and partially over at Saturday Night at the Atheist, where Dave is hard at work promoting Toast and Bigfoot and talking about the guy Wayne that came up with the whole toast comment and all that stuff. And um, he talks about Wayne talks about himself as an average manifester of magic, and I must be shit because I've been trying to manifest 65 degrees in my apartment without AC all day, and it just hasn't been working. So that manifestation will happen sometime in fall. So that'll be that. So that'll be we go. But yes, I don't know. I don't. Toast is okay, I guess. So, well, let's see. We got Fred is here. Let's see. I call Earl. Girl. Oh, you got that thunderstorm that's coming through North Carolina right now, isn't it? Yeah. Hey, Martin. Martin's here. Ann is here. Oh, John from Holland is here. Bren is here. Michael is here. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. The guy makes some interesting points. This is not one of those where I'm going to yell and scream. Not that I ever do anyway, but it's more of a brain thing of how are we defining atheism. But good to see you, Brent, and on time. So, misanthropic, grumpy goblin queen atheist. There we go. You like toast? Okay. Oh, there you go. Oh, let's see. Fred's been here for a while, but yes. So there's that. The other announcement is next week there will be no live streams at all. I am on vacation officially after this live stream, so I have a bunch of stuff the early part of the week where I'm not with my family and stuff that I have to get done. It's more of a staycation. It's me relaxing plus stuff, having time to get stuff done. So the more I looked at that, I said I could get a couple YouTube things done too that I haven't had the proper amount of time and thought to do. So I'm going to do that. So we will be basically media dark for the next week, and then I'll be back the week after that on Tuesday. So I'll probably post those live streams fairly early, so you'll know well in advance when they're coming. So, but yeah, I've decided to kind of take the week off from YouTube. So get someone, and then I'll be from Wednesday on. I'll be with my family until Sunday in another state. So I won't even be near my computer to do anything. So that'll be me. So there may be some videos type stuff dropping during the week where I'll give you some stuff that I'm working on. So never signed that off. Oh, Michael, I'm so glad that you guys are the ones that sign off on my vacations. My jaw pain is not gone. I get the tooth pulled Tuesday morning. It's one of the reasons I'm not streaming on Tuesday, because I will be incapacitated probably most of the day. So in some way, shape, or form. But I've got good meds right now, John. I don't take pain medications until I absolutely need them, and I'm taking them now. That'll probably answer your question more than anything. So, like, I will put up with a whole crap ton of pain, but I will not right now. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's the first time all my kids and all my grandkids have been in the same spot in about 2 years. So it's going to be interesting. My one son lives in New York, so we don't get him together with him as often as I do with the other two. So it'll be nice, and they're looking forward to seeing their brother. And it's all, the rest of them all live like in the same town I do, so it's like I see them all the time, but I don't see these. Yes, Aso. Hey, Aso. Let's see. I forgot to load this image, Aso, and I think I'm going to start doing it all the time because I just love the devil puppy. Good to see you, though. I just love this devil puppy. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. He's almost as cute as Fangs. Oh, Pupper broke his tooth and clean. Ouch. That's worse. That's worse. I'm sorry. Yes, he is very cute. This is. It's also spawned some theological controversy with Fangs too, because I can definitely see how Fangs is one of the parents of this child, and I am trying to figure out what the other parent is. but definitely red eyes, black teeth, some sort of dog. So there's that. Unknown other parent. But I can definitely see that Fangs is involved with his shenanigans as normal. Just a black lab. Okay. Oh boy, yes. Yeah, I was over at Dave's place earlier. Me and Fred were, and I think some of the rest of you might have been over there. But Dave has been doing this guy Wayne, who is trying to teach us how to manifest magic, and it's hilarious. Oh, but yeah. So there's that. Yeah, it's a trinity. Yeah, we got plenty of trinities. Let's see, what other trinity do I have in my image files? Oh yes, the unholy trinity. This is the unholy trinity around here. So there you go. Yeah, the tie dye is epic on this one though. I really do. I love tie dye. Tie dye is kind of interesting. It's all a bit silly, really. All right. Well, what y'all came here for is, what type of atheist are you? And I'm going to do my regular earphones because one of my ears hurts a little bit. It's on the side of the tooth, so I'm assuming that's what it has to do with. So we're going to do that instead. Says there that, but let me call up our video for today. This video is definitely probably an AI voice reading a script. Possibly, I'm not sure. Lots of imagery. A couple misspellings too. New channel, but this is it ought to be interesting to take a look at here, because he does talk about atheism a little bit more detailed, and I did enjoy a good chunk of what he had to say because he's not being dismissive of atheism. Okay, like there's, yeah, I would say that spirituality is a nonsensical concept to me. So I don't have, yeah, I mean, Earl kind of answered it for me because I just don't feel, when you start talking spirituality, what difference in proof level do you have for that or a God? So there's that aspect. So, but let's get into the video. Let's see what Quiet Inquiry the channel has to say about the 4 types of atheism.
What does it really mean to be an atheist? It's a question people usually answer too quickly. Most just say, I don't believe in God. But that sentence hides a lot of complexity. When someone says they don't believe in God, they might mean very different things. Atheism isn't a single block of thought.
Okay, I want to stop there. My running assumption with atheism, okay, is if you take the atheist part by itself, it's basically a statement, I don't believe in God. Now, you may say later things like, I don't know whether there's a God or not, I just don't believe in one. Or you may say, I don't believe in God, but I also don't think, I know that there isn't one. Like you might take the very gnostic view of God. I don't know, it's kind of an interesting statement to make that atheism is a little bit deeper than that. And that's kind of what got my attention with this video when I was watching it the first time. Here I am going through it a second time. So I don't know. Do I believe in a spiritual reality? That's kind of the question that's in the chat right now. No, not really. I guess it depends on what you define as spiritual, but what kind of atheist are you is a deeper question than just, do you believe in God? And if the answer is no, you're an atheist. Is there any kind of thought other than Gnostic and agnostic atheists that kind of comes off of that about whether we can know there's a God or not? And so, I don't know. It's one of those things. Hey, Cranky, good to see you. There's that. And Ronald's here. Yeah. Good to see you, Ronald. But yeah, I mean, there's like Bren here. He's very Gnostic about his atheism. It's not that he just doesn't believe in a God. He knows that there isn't one. To him, he knows that there isn't a God, and therefore he doesn't believe. So that's that one. Then you have multiplicity of gods because Fred's bringing up the other point, which God are we talking about? It's a question that I posed to theists, like you don't believe in Thor or Odin. Okay, well then you're a Thor Odin atheist in that sense, that you don't have the same non-belief in them that I do. So, to me, atheism has always dealt with belief, and the whole Gnostic agnostic question has dealt with knowledge. And that's why I tell people you need to kind of separate those two to kind of give me some sort of understanding of what you mean by you say there's just no God. But this creator is very interesting in the sense that there's more to it than that. So I guess we'll find out if there is any more. So there's that. But yeah, so we'll see where he goes from here.
It's a wide spectrum. a mental landscape shaped by reason, frustration, curiosity, and sometimes even humor. In this video, we're going to explore 4 types of atheism, and you might be surprised to see which one you belong to. Let's begin with the first kind,
Okay. So I just want you to know there's 4 types of atheism that this video proposes existing, and he's going to go through each one. So, and this might be a real good discussion starter. I think it will be. So we'll see what happens. And he's about to go through the first one. It's the most straightforward one, he says.
most straightforward one. These atheists say very clearly that God does not exist. Not just probably doesn't exist, not just hiding or uninterested, but simply does not exist.
Okay, so I think most of us atheists would define this atheist as the gnostic atheist. Like they know God does not exist. It's not a question of belief for them anymore. It's God does not exist. Full stop. Okay. So I would call that a gnostic atheist. At least that's would be my, and I am so close to that it's ridiculous. It's the only reason I even leave the door open is for discussion purposes. I like from a practical standpoint. I find all gods to be imaginative products of human imagination, and so I'm not convinced at all about any of them. So there's that aspect. Well, yeah, he's going to actually, Brent. This is another type of atheist he's going to go into. So we'll see if that is. I don't know if that's a type of atheist or some sort of other viewpoint. So yeah, it does get boring when you see all the assertions without some sort of evidence. It's interesting. Yeah, it's very true as long as you realize all claim gods don't exist. I think a lot of us are Gnostic atheists when it comes to all the gods that have currently been proposed, like all the ones that human beings have come up with. I think that that's very valid that we would all be Gnostic. Like I'm a Gnostic atheist when it comes to the God of the Bible. I know that MFer doesn't exist. Okay, it's like he's logically inconsistent, clearly the result of some sort of polytheistic system that began to fascinate itself with one God. When you start looking at the history of the development of the theology around that God, you can pretty much see the human aspects of it. So you still have to prove that it's eternally born before human concept and imagination. You haven't proven that assertion. That's assertion. Okay. What evidence do you have that God was there before human imagination? You can say that all you want, but do you have any evidence for that? Do you have any proof that God existed before human imagination? So, I mean, this is kind of where the Gnostic atheist is coming from, is like every God that we've ever proposed is a product of human imagination. So anything where you make an assertion that such a God existed before human imagination, you need to have evidence that that existed. So where is that evidence? So let's hear what he has to say for the rest of it.
No heaven, no hell, no bearded man in the sky, no divine plan, just the universe, its laws, and the chaos that comes with it. This view is becoming more common. According to Pew Research, in the U.S. alone, over 29% of adults now identify as religiously unaffiliated. That includes atheists, agnostics, and people who simply don't care. In many European countries, the numbers are even higher. In Sweden, for example, about 70% of people identify as non-religious. Why this shift?
Okay, I want to stop there because I think there's a danger here. Just because somebody is non-religious doesn't necessarily mean that they don't believe in God. The faith in God issue is separate from religion in a lot of ways. I think most religious people do believe in a God or multiple gods of some sort, or maybe they don't. They just believe in a spirituality. But I don't, when I look at these polls, it's important to remember that they're often doing religious affiliation, not necessarily belief in God. So yeah, so that's kind of, you gotta, availability of the information probably, because the events don't line up with reality. Like there's no flood. There never has been a flood. Adam and Eve genetically are proven to be false. I mean, the first 11 chapters of the book of Genesis are pure grade A mythology. So, I mean, there's no proof that Moses even existed. Even Hebrew scholars have given up on that angle. And so the first 5 books of the Bible are complete fiction, as far as I can tell. Somebody made up in 600 BC. So, I mean, if you're going to bring the Bible here, you need to know something about it. The farther back in time it goes, the more mythological it gets. So, there is no evidence to support a good chunk of the Bible as even being true. It's not listen, it's your claim that the Bible is true and historical and accurate, then you have to prove that claim, and so far, zero. Okay. It's not there. Okay. And those doubts for me started back in Bible college and seminary, because the more I studied the Bible, the more I began to realize that there was no proof that any of this was true. Okay. So, but there's plenty of evidence against the Bible now. Like there is zero evidence for the Exodus. None. There's no evidence that the slaves were even in Egypt. When you look at the Gospels, if you want a New Testament example, there's actually no evidence that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John wrote those books that are ascribed to them. Okay. And they certainly don't cite their sources as to where they got the stories about Jesus. So it's really a lack of evidence for the Bible even being fiction, being anything but fiction itself. So looks like Trump. Okay. There's also the fact that the God concept of most monotheistic religions, particularly the Abrahamic ones, is inconsistent. Like the whole thing is just not there. So why is there a
Part of the
shift?
answer lies in how science has replaced superstition. A few hundred years ago, lightning was explained as the anger of gods. Today we know it's the discharge of electricity between clouds and the ground. Once you have an explanation that doesn't require a deity, the need for one disappears. This first group of atheists sees belief in God the same way we now see belief in witches or demons, just old ideas we outgrew.
There's a lot of truth to that. For me, it was more studying the Bible, realizing it had no historical veracity. The more you learn about how reality and how it really works, like you lose the necessary God of the gaps argument. Like we don't understand this, so we're going to dump. Like we suddenly don't need the explanation. Like he gives the example of lightning. For years, Norse paganism said it was Thor's hammer and the thunder god himself. And now it's like, no, we actually know how thunder and lightning are generated. And so we don't need that explanation anymore. The gods always filled gaps in our knowledge. And as the knowledge of humanity has grown, the gaps have disappeared. And so, yeah, it becomes very much, it begins to replace, knowledge begins to replace our imagination. Now, it doesn't mean that imagination can't be helpful, but you can imagine stuff, but you got to back it up with evidence. And we just kind of, to this person creating this video, this first group of atheists is just simply people who have realized that we've outgrown our need for gods. Okay, we just don't need them anymore. Our comprehension does indeed replace what we were either indoctrinated or taught or whatever. And for me, this was very much the case. My deconversion from Christianity to atheism is largely, on the one hand, not being able to find sufficient evidence for anything in the Bible that, I could even possibly take to court in any way, shape, or form, because the first question I ask, do we have any confirmation of the source of this material? And the answer for all of it is no. Okay, so it's like, you don't have any credibility for your own claims. And then you start finding out things like, yeah, the worldwide flood that creationists proposed just couldn't have happened. Okay. There are many civilizations around the world that blissfully continued right through this flood, apparently unaware of its existence. Um, on and on the list goes. Moses has now become this conglomerate character that the people who wrote the Bible in about 600 BC and afterwards just they made him up, to fill a gap in their mythology. They made up, the Epic of Gilgamesh, all these other things. They plagiarized all that stuff and put together their own myth for their own people, which is, once you realize that, it's kind of, it becomes one of those things that it just disintegrates for you. Well, then, if that's your pet god and your need for your god has disappeared, then what about the rest of them? Well, do we really need the concept of God at all? I mean, do we really even need that, or are there better ways of finding out what the truth is? Even if we don't know, I don't have to postulate a God to keep going forward with my knowledge. So, thank you, Martin. Appreciate you. Love the 666 donation. Always. So, you haven't missed much. Just us going over what gnostic atheism is, which is kind of what this guy is going through. Is like, we definitely know the gods don't exist, kind of thing. So, but we'll see what the second one has to say. But we'll see. We'll see.
They don't hate religion, but they don't see any reason to entertain it either. They see no evidence for God, and they don't feel any emotional gap that religion needs to fill. For them, life is enough. But that's just one type.
I kind of resonate with some of those last statements. I just have realized how little I really need religion. Um, there was a time where I was very emotionally attached to my religion. That's why I stayed so long. But I just don't feel that anymore. I think part of deconversion is mental, and the other part is emotional. And the mental is easier, at least for me, it was easier to discard. It was the emotional attachments and stuff that took me far, far longer. So, um, I don't know. I'm at this point where part of that is very true. It's not so much that I hate religion. I just don't see it as necessary. I also, I kind of understand why religion exists because we've had such a long time in human history where we haven't had answers and so we've made them up. Okay. But I now see religion as detrimental because it continues to hold on to old ideas that we can demonstrably show are not true. So it's like, it's at that point that um, you just don't have any evidence for it and you just don't see any need for it. It's not, I'm an anti theist, not because I hate religion. I just hate the effects of religion on people because it turns perfectly normal people into either idiots or evil or just plain wasteful. I consider it a waste of time, energy, and effort by the human race. And so it's not so much a hatred, but an intellectual thought of saying, "Hey, we need to get rid of this." Okay, so when atheists have, they no longer identify with atheism. Even I've had many mystical experiences as a Pentecostal believer, and I bet you some of those qualify uh, under this definition of whatever the hell that is, right? What is this? Sicilian induced mystical. I've had tons of mystical experiences as a Pentecostal. It never kept me in the faith. Um, so why would it bring me back when I know that that's just a psychological thing? Like I know how those experiences are generated in people psychologically. Like you can prime the pump, so to speak, of anybody's expectations, and sooner or later you can get a mystical experience, especially if they're already predetermined to have one. Like they're they lean that direction, so to speak. But sorry, personal experiences. If people are leaving atheism and not coming back because of that, I would say that's a pretty poor reason. Okay, it's like it's fine that that's the case. Uh, well, it's fine that it's a conversion experience for it, but once again, it's just a conversion experience. Like I know what a conversion experience is, psychologically speaking. It's an emotional. It's creating of an emotional attachment. It doesn't prove that there's a God. Okay, It still doesn't prove it. And cranky is like, what studies are we talking about here? Citation, please. So, there's that. So, yeah, I mean, to me, I think that's the issue. Why assume a God anymore? Why don't we go forward in human knowledge? And I get that there's an existential question that a lot of people have to answer with that one. So I think that's what he's going to kind of get into with his other three types of atheists. But I'm not sure that one of them is actually atheism. And that's usually my both contentions. Yeah, do they find the same God? Do they what God do they begin to serve once they no longer are atheists and become theists? Do they actually become theists, or do they become atheists that believe in spirituality? There are a few of those. Like there are some forms of Buddhism I would consider atheistic because they don't have a personal God, but they believe in some sort of spiritual nature to the universe. So it doesn't necessarily get rid of atheism. And I've had tons of mystical experiences when I was younger, and that I'm going to tell you what they are. They're psychological manipulation, either self-induced or induced by the community, or both. So there you go.
The second type of atheist sees things a bit differently. They don't say with absolute certainty that God doesn't exist, but they believe that if God does exist, he's completely lost control.
I have never really heard of this type of atheist before, and it's a big caveat that he's putting there. If God exists, God has lost complete control. Because if we are ruled by natural laws and stuff, I don't see the issue of chaos and order being a thing for me anymore. The world is what it is. I don't. They don't think God exists, but they do. If they do, if God does exist, He's lost control of His creation. Now, I can't say that such a person doesn't exist. Um, I just find it very odd that, I just don't know why people want to postulate a God anymore. At least for me, I just don't postulate a God as an answer anymore. I still have a lot of questions in life, and I'm going to have a lot of those questions when at the moment of my death. So but that's not the issue. The issue is, would I rather head that direction believing in a God, or would I think that there's some other more rational, reasonable answer? And I would probably go to the latter. So, uh, well, but even so, if they're debating mystical states of consciousness, is it mystical or is it just brainwave psychological? Is it just brain chemicals, whatever psychological states? I mean, just because you want to put the label mystical on it doesn't change what it really is. Okay, you can sit there and try to spiritualize it by adding certain terminology, but that doesn't change that it could be something else, completely normal and mundane. Human beings have mystical experiences, quote unquote, and I'm putting mystical in the words in quotation marks. Is that what they are? Have you proven these are mystical experiences with some spiritual higher power? No. Okay, so yeah, I don't think it constitutes a mystical experience either. So it's like I'm not. To me, I don't know. Mystical experiences I can explain with a lot of other reasons, and I've experienced those so many times myself. Like I've spoken in tongues. I've done that on this channel a couple of times. I've had people, Christians, say because I can still speak in tongues, I'm still saved and I'm still going to heaven. And I have others that have said that I've turned to the language of demons, and so it's to me you can. If there's peer pressure expectation inside of a church of a certain experience, you'll probably have that experience. Okay, so yeah, I mean, at that point, see, this is the thing, Fred, with this type of atheist. If you postulate that God exists and he turns out to exist, then you're not an atheist anymore. Okay, the moment you get into some sort of belief or understanding or knowledge of a God that actually exists, I don't think you're in atheist territory anymore. So yeah, it just the word mystical doesn't mean anything to me. So it's like you're adding a term that maybe doesn't belong there. So, eh, well, okay. I just know that I've had a lot of experiences, and I've made the statement on several videos in this channel that experience doesn't mean shit when it comes to proving anything. Because you can have Islamic people, Christian people, Buddhist people, Hindu people have the exact same spiritual experience, and then they interpret it completely different. So there's no way to prove anything true with experiences. So so God has lost complete control, but at that point I would be believing in God and having some sort of concept of God. I wouldn't be an atheist anymore at that point.
Like a scientist who accidentally created a self-replicating AI that took over the lab. These atheists think the world we live in is far too messy, too cruel, too illogical to be the result of an all-knowing, all-loving being who's still paying attention.
Now, up to this point, he has a valid point. That's what the problem of evil is. Definitely a good argument against the all-knowing, all-loving God, all-powerful God. You know, at some point you have to make the painful conclusion that either God isn't loving or he isn't all knowing and all present, so some evil slips through the cracks, or he isn't all powerful. Okay, so he can't stop it. Evil got loose, and like the scientists in the lab, it got loose. But all of those are theistic beliefs. Like it would still involve a belief in God, and so you're not an atheist at that point. If this is your belief system, like God existed but it got out of control, you believe in a God. Okay, you believe in a deity. Okay, okay, and at that point, I'm not sure you're an atheist. So, Christian to woo, I don't. I think that would be considered mystical, like you're having these experiences where you get involved. To me, woo is very much experiential. Like if you listen to woo practitioners and promoters, um, I would say they're always talking about having certain experiences, and there's something about religious thought. There's something about mystical thought, putting that in quotes and again, where you're being pulled down a certain experiential route, you know, where your psychology is put into certain states. It's why I tell people that, like when I did my thing on spiritual disciplines, there's still some value to some of them. Well, some of them I get rid of, but I got rid of it. I don't know. Mystical, you know, it has such a wide definition, or I guess I think you could apply it to some of the experiences I've had, and like when I talk to former witches and warlocks, they talk about their mystical experiences, but it's very much a psychological thing. It's like you put yourself into a certain mental emotional state, and then you interpret that as something else. That's why I think mystical is a really lousy word, because so many people just add it to something and suddenly it makes it spiritual. Like there's a spiritual connotation behind the word. And to me, I like, no, you had a religious experience, and that experience still doesn't prove your point. So it's that. I don't think that this is a type of atheist at this point either. You're basically postulating a god at this point, but he's lost control. So he's not much of a deity. I mean, this is pretty much every polytheistic system where you have a creator deity among the deities that created the earth and humans, and somehow they lost control. How is that any different than polytheism with some of those types of mythologies? Like, you know, when Odin creates the world and human beings, you know, like the other gods, what the hell are you doing? Yeah, kind of thing. So it's like that kind of issue. So yeah, mystical is kind of one of those weird words. I do agree. You lose you yeah, it might be mystical there. So yeah. Uh, yeah, at this point, I think we're getting into woo, a little bit. Yeah, to me, I would agree with Ronald here, Top G. I think it's a valid area of study of why people have these experiences. I just don't believe that they're mystical or God or spiritual in the sense that most people think of it in a religious sense. So, but so let's see what this guy. I don't think this is a type of atheism, but let's see what he has to say about it.
Wars, genocide, climate disasters, child poverty, systemic injustice. If there is a God, then either he's powerless to stop these things or he simply doesn't care.
Yeah, and that would be the problem of evil argument's ultimate effect against such a God. Like the whole nature of the problem of evil argument is to point this out. Like if there was a benevolent, all powerful, all knowing, all present God, then a lot of this stuff that causes suffering and death and destruction would not exist. Okay, so there's that. Woo and porn are the same, you know. We see it. That's probably true. Does the woo crap in the woods? Uh, Yeah, mysticism is also you. That's another problem with the term mysticism because you use it in alchemy. Alchemy talks about mysticism. There's a certain magical school of thought called mysticism. If you like do fantasy fiction writing like I do, I've run into mystical schools of magic like evocation. There's other schools like evocation and all the rest of them. So mysticism can have that definition too. So it makes it complicated. So. Yeah, see, want us to reach a point in society where we don't exactly shame religiously, but we do realize it's far too far from how we are all susceptible to optical illusions and deja vu. Yes. I think I do want to get to a point where we realize how much our environment has an effect on our psychology for us to think certain things, how our society does that. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't want to get people. I mean, I was into Pentecostal mysticism, if you want to put it that way, and superstition for a long time. Okay, so it's why when people come here and they're deconverting and they feel so embarrassed about themselves, I'm like, dude, there's a few of us that were in that pipeline for a long time. Don't feel bad about it. There's a lot of people who get pulled into this stuff and it's really hard, to find your way back to something that's real, that's actually helpful. And that's kind of been my focus of this channel is just helping people get to the real and what's helpful. And so, getting rid of bad concepts of God. But I don't think that I'm going to say that this isn't a type of atheism. This is a type of theism or an anti-theist argument. Um, but it's also an argument that leaves a lot of people unconvinced that there is a God. So an agnostic atheist might make this argument, but he wouldn't believe in such a God. So there's that.
And that's no kind of God worth worshiping. In fact, some of these atheists argue that the idea of a perfect creator is impossible. If you
Correct.
were truly perfect, why would you create anything?
Yes. Yes, a very valid question. If you're truly perfect, you don't really need anything or want anything. If that's your definition of perfection, like if you're totally self-actualized and confident within yourself, why would you need to create anything? I don't know. I just it there's a lot of arguments against God, the classical God's existence that this is hitting, which is perfectly valid. I'm just not sure it's a form of atheism. Which breaks down to emotion, and we all have emotions. Wowza. Yeah, you get. I got started when I came out of when I came out of Pentecostalism. I still had a few experiences that kind of made me want to think I needed to be back. But like you, the experiences once I got out of the church, they were less and less because I think even in more traditional, churches and less Pentecostal, you have that, I believe in prayer, I believe God does miracles kind of attitude among people. And slowly but surely you begin to get out of that mentality because you're not hanging around it all the time and you're not dealing with it all the time. So got dumped in a Baptist church as a child. Jesus I love, but the idea of allowing another to suffer for my misdeeds is immoral and I cannot support it. Yeah, see, this is kind of going along with the same thing that this guy is talking about, the objections to a certain type of God. And I that part of the gospel was always so tricky for me to preach when I was a preacher, because it was that objection came up a lot. Well, why would God punish somebody in our place? Why doesn't he just clear the scales? Why doesn't he just deal with me one on one and say, hey man, I forgive you, and deal with it, and not need like a suffering blood sacrifice? It's a lot of the reason why a lot of us, it's like the idiocy of the gospel messages, God sacrificing himself to appease his own anger uh, against his creation, which it's his fault that they're that way in the first place. So it's like the gospel nature kind of disappears, and yeah, that's just one aspect of it. So yes, I'm still different from Woo. A friend of mine was talking about hiding his car and hoping it got totaled. I immediately got irrationally angry, telling him not to speak it into existence. We were just doing that over at Captive Desk. I don't know if he's still on, but we were literally talking about manifestations. And, and I'm going to tell you, Earl, it's like 80 degrees in my apartment. I've been trying to manifest 65 degrees all day. And it's not happening. So I'm shit at this manifestation. But I get that. Like it's like karma. Like people still believe that, like if you do bad shit, bad shit's going to happen to you. If you do good shit, good shit. I've seen people do good all their life and get nothing but shit sandwiches in return. And I've seen some of the most heinous individuals in my lifetime rise to the top. Okay. So yeah, that karma shit, that doesn't work. Okay. It doesn't work either. We might want to work on human justice a little bit better. Yeah. Yeah, it's possible, Blossom. It's a it's a weaker argument against God. Like it's not as strong as I think the problem of evil, but it's like if you imagine perfection a certain way, like if if you, and this is where we're anthropomorphizing again too, because we're like picturing what a perfect human would be and then putting it in God's place. So yet they still pray when it's convenient. Yeah, yeah, that's kind of common. That's common in all religions. Yeah, it's a fancy transformation of consciousness, is a fancy term for learning. Is much more, I suppose, one that is infallible. The vision of God being pushed into one that is ignorant, petty, and vengeful, not my father. I don't use the right ice cubes. Jesus Christ. What else am I doing wrong? What else am I doing wrong? Oh, okay. Well, let's get on to this second type of atheist, and I got to put it in quotes. So there's that. Oh, yeah, but I've been Christ being taken advantage. Oh, yes. Also agree. Karma does not exist. Yes. So, yeah, I'm glad you got humor of not me using the right ice cubes. I have a constant rotation in my freezer of ice trays. So I'm using a lot right now. So, but there's that. Well, let's see what else he has to say about the second type of atheist. It's a good thought provoking
And
thing.
if you created something, why would it be so flawed? The
Okay. All
wide
right.
spectrum.
Oh,
A
shoot.
mental
I moved it.
shift
I moved it. Okay. Let's get back to this one.
thing.
Right
And
here.
if you created something, why would it be so flawed?
I think maybe that's the other part of the argument, like Blossom pointed out, that, why would a perfect being create? Well, this is the part of it. Why is the creation flawed then? If you're a perfect being, why do you create a flawed creation? I can understand that in polytheism, where they don't postulate a single God with all the power, and you get committees of gods creating different things. And so, yeah, you can have a lot of flaws that way. But if you have an omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent God that's benevolent, how do you get a flawed creation? Okay, how would there be any flaws to begin with? Yes, all hail Fangs. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. So I will count that one. I don't think the counter counts it, but I will count it. You're a skeptically pissed off atheist. Well, so far this guy hasn't been too bad. I mean, he's thought provoking about atheism, and he isn't being disparaging. It's not like I'm reacting to Daniel and his types of atheists. Holy shit, was that a shitstorm? But so medical study expands on is how facial transmit may work to restore gut health. Okay, there's a life still exists. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Why would it be so flawed? Yeah.
The philosopher Epicurus posed this dilemma long ago. He asked, "Is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he is not omnipotent. Is he able but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Then whence cometh evil?" That question is still unanswered by most theists today.
That is correct. Epicure, his dilemma still remains, and I have never heard a good response to it yet. Um, Whenever I hear a response to this, like my response to it at the end was just to postulate that God didn't know everything, okay, or couldn't know everything based on the nature of knowledge. And I also had to postulate that maybe he only had powers that actually existed and not fanciful ones that we came up with our imagination. But that kind of led me to the point, well, then the whole thing is imaginatory. So it's like this dilemma has remained as something I have never in my time as an atheist or as a theist heard answered sufficiently. Like, it doesn't, this idea of God being omnipotent or able to stop it, then if he's able to stop it and has the desire to stop it, why doesn't he? Okay, so it's like it's been around for a long time. So well, but that's just it, because now we're dealing with a value judgment. Green, is what is perfect and what is a flaw. Okay, so that's why I say that's a weak argument against theism. It's there to pose some questions, but I think Epicurus is the problem of evil is a far more valid argument against that type of God. It doesn't hit all gods, and I made that point when I did my series arguments against God, that a lot of these arguments against God go after the omni-God. They don't necessarily go against a divine being of any lesser stature, but they definitely hit the idea of an omni-God pretty hard. So yeah, it's like she's pointing out, yeah, there's a pottery form where there's crack, and then somebody comes along and repairs it with gold or whatever, and it makes it look even more beautiful than it was before. That's an art. Okay, but the assumption that it needs to be repaired in some way is kind of still there. So yeah, it does. Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't. My viewpoint on a lot of other things, I'm fairly certain is incorrect. And I've maintained that I'm an agnostic atheist because I always leave the door open a slight crack with a very sliver of light coming through. That if somebody came to me and gave me a good, logical, consistent argument for the existence of God that had evidence backing it, I would accept it. But so far, no dice. So, and there's a lot of arguments against the existence of gods that also have to be dealt with. So I don't know. It for me as the rabid atheist, I've remained an atheist. Probably this is the longest I've held a theological position, if you will. Like I just don't see the possibility of it anymore, and it's just not there. So and pretty much all spirituality is gone for me too because I can see the same reasons I reject God is the same reasons that I also reject spirituality. Like, where's your evidence? Where's your testable, repeatable stuff? Where's the stuff I can take to court and multiple people can see it and say that might be true? So it's like it's one of those things where you analyze something a lot more closely, and I don't want to spend my time with something that I can't prove. So, but yes, I just don't. I agree with you. You always need to keep that. That's probably why I'm still an agnostic atheist. Is just I could be wrong. It's that one little I could be wrong in the back of my head. So, and I just want to be honest about it at that point. I guess so. Yeah, not necessarily. It depends on how you define consciousness. Once again, your consciousness what a loaded term with all kinds of definitions. And I don't think protection is an unattainable one. Yes, that's possible. Oh, when you burn. Okay, I'm mixing my shit up. I'm mixing my shit up. That's typical of me, Earl. You know that I mix my shit up all the time. Yes, but I actually love the pottery where they fix broken pottery and make it look better. So perfection is anything that helps you survive. That's a low standard, but a valid one. But yeah, the whole idea of consciousness. What is consciousness? Um, that's a there's a lot of gray fuzzy edges on that yet. So what do you mean by that? I'm not trying to be Jordan Peterson there. I'm legit dealing with the fact that there's 5 million definitions to consciousness. I swear. So well, I expect that from you, Earl. I expect you to correct me. And normally I don't like accept correction from too many people, being my defiant autistic self. But you, I get. So you're allowed.
These second-time atheists often grew up with faith they might have believed as children, but as they grew older, the contradictions became too hard to ignore. They saw how religion excused suffering instead of solving it. They heard about miracles that only ever seemed to happen in stories. They watched how religion often demanded obedience instead of offering answers. So they didn't turn into angry atheists, just tired ones, exhausted by the excuses. Now,
Okay. I think. Well, I'm glad you took it that way because that's the way it was meant. But his whole point there is more what I would call a journey to atheism from a lot of people who've come out of religion. I'm one of those people. There's a lot of people who are deconverting, particularly in the Western world, because the more we look at the world around us, the thing about this four types of atheists thing is like I can see elements of myself in both of them, and so it doesn't. I don't know. I always get a little bit, you know, I don't know. I resist the idea of being classified into something hard. Am I a hard atheist, a soft atheist? That it's like I just don't believe in God. I don't believe in any of them. Like it's like, and I don't believe in spirituality and none of that stuff. I've you got to come at me with a little bit more harder stuff than you say so. So just confirming. Oh, yeah. Oh. But a third type, let's see what the third type is. These two I can kind of see, I guess, although I don't think the second type is an atheist if they actually believe in God. So,
the third type, this one shocks people. These atheists say something very different. They don't deny that God could exist, but they hate the idea of such a being.
okay. Anybody in chat, have you ever heard of this type of atheist? Because I get the accusation all the time that I just hate God. And it's like, how do I hate something I don't believe exists? Like I don't hate God the Father, God the Holy Spirit, God the Son. I just don't hate those guys because I don't think they're real. Why would I hate something that's not real any more than I like, I suppose you can say you can hate a character in fiction. But that's kind of the way I hate Yahweh God. He's just a really awful character in fiction. He'd be a better villain if he had something interesting about him, but he's just kind of boring. Like he gets pissed off and kills people, and that's kind of it. And there's just not a lot of nuance to Yahweh. So I don't necessarily hate him. I just think he's a poorly written character. Um, so I mean, how and let's take the elder gods for a minute here, Cranky. You can hate the elder gods all you want. It ain't going to make a damn bit of difference. If you hate the elder god, your brain still tastes the same as one that doesn't. You know, it's like it doesn't. Yeah, yeah, it's like I don't, I don't, I don't get this type of atheism as a type of atheism. I'm an anti-theist because I think religion does a lot of damage to us now. Like, Christopher Hitchens once said it, religion was our first and worst attempt at understanding the world. And we need to understand the worst attempt, that it was early on. We were still trying to deal with a lot of things we didn't know. But as time has gone by, religion now has gone from this thing that kind of got us asking questions to now that we didn't really answer well, to now we're answering them better with things besides religion. And so is religion really all that necessary anymore? And I just don't think it is. Okay. I think you can have a very fulfilling life and love your life and all this other stuff. Um, I don't know. I just have gotten past the point where hate really isn't a word I use about the thought of such a God existing. I don't really hate that idea. It's just, I'm just not, convinced that that strong of an emotion should be attached to anything I discuss about God anymore. So, yeah, I do hate the Cowboys too. You hate the Cowboys and the Lakers? Oh, outstanding. You are welcome here, Owl. It's about the only time I listen to Stephen A. Smith is football season. Let's see, not to mention with Noah's flood, God went through straight to genocide with one verbal warning and two written warnings. What a jerk. Yes. Yeah, the Yahweh character of God in the Old Testament is he's just a horrible, bad guy. The only thing that's really tricky about him is everybody's supposed to think he's the good guy, but when you look at his actions, like, yeah, fuck that guy. Really? Is that what this is? Misotheism? Okay. So it's not really atheism then. Okay, that's my point. Like if this is a type of atheist, I've never really heard of it. So they got him thankful for hobbies as idols. He must have thrown away a few $100,000 worth of rare comics. Oh, I so identify with that, Green. I am missing certain role playing games from like old versions of Dungeons and Dragons from my thing because somebody convinced me it was satanic. And I now regret that decision very, very much. Like I had everything second edition, and I would love to have that in my library right now. So yeah, he's kind of a shit diplomat too. Like he can't negotiate worth a damn. So, but yes, and Decibel, thank you, appreciate you. But instead, it's an adoration of hate. Okay, thank you, because he's defining this as this is my only problem with this video. He makes some very thought-provoking statements. He's not being disparaging of atheism, like he's not saying it's stupid or anything like that. It's just I feel like he's misdefining it and he's adding a lot of stuff to it that just doesn't really belong there with this. With this third group, it becomes very painfully obvious. So we'll play it a little bit farther and you'll see what I mean.
They say if God showed up, they wouldn't bow, they'd rebel. And some even go as far as saying, if God comes, I will kill him. That sounds extreme. But this attitude doesn't come from nowhere. These atheists are often shaped by personal trauma, political awareness, or deep philosophical dissatisfaction. They look at history and see that religion has often been the handmaiden of oppression. The church burning heretics, the mosque silencing critics, the temple enforcing caste. They don't just see God as imaginary, they see him as harmful, even if he were real. Fyodor Dostoevsky captured this spirit in The Brothers Karamazov when Ivan said, "It's not that I don't accept God, I just respectfully return him the ticket."
Okay, so we had to bring in Russian writers, and my Jordan Peterson alarm went off again. Um, so you can now listen to Led Zeppelin backwards, and it's cool. Yeah, me too. Good shit. Yeah, it's to me. I don't know. This is one of those stereotypes of atheists that I just don't see in. I don't know what real atheism is, other than I don't believe in God or gods or anything like that. And so I just don't. I just don't understand how we get angry at a concept. Now, I think you can fight against a concept. You can be mad about it, I guess. And so I get it. I get that some atheists think, like myself, think the concept of God is harmful because it allows us to advocate responsibility and toss responsibility. But um, I think that's one of those moments where I'm not sure that this person's an atheist so much as they're trying to have a reason to hate religion. And I don't know. I just don't find this to be a form of atheism per se. It's a form of theism where we hate the God that we think exists, and I just don't see that as an atheistic form. So, who's been banned? Hey, mods, have you banned anybody? Because I don't ban anybody. So, I just don't know if anybody has been banned. Maybe Bloody Mouse, because I think I just saw him disappear. But dude, if you're gonna spread lies about my channel, like, theists are welcome here as long as they're respectful. Okay, and you know, atheism is dying. Really, last I looked, Pew Research says otherwise. So maybe you want to go live in reality, I guess. Oh, he's timed out. Okay, there we go. There you go. Yeah, it's dude. You're welcome. But this is just nice propaganda. Like my mods really haven't done anything tonight. I don't think. I don't see anything disappearing. So you're just making stuff up. I mean, you're lying. Okay. I don't ban people that express their thought. I do ban people that are just shit human beings that just want to cause trouble, and that's fine. That's not the level where atheism is now, but okay. I mean, this is just propaganda. Like, you might want to find something better to do with your time. Hey, Fred, thank you, sir. Yeah, I think belief in God and respect for their God are two different things. So yeah, that's probably that. You timed out a troll. There you go. Ban timeout. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Like some of my mods won't ban anybody unless they ask me first. So I don't ban people very often. I have banned a few people myself because they're just propaganda machines, gish galloping their beliefs about God and not allowing anybody to respond. I appreciate theists that want to have dialogue and actually ask some reasonable questions and are willing to listen to my response before they type another comment. But yeah, just we'll time you out if you're just going to be, if you're going to do negative propaganda against my channel without any evidence. Yeah, we're gonna time you out for a bit. So just don't. You just banned him? Okay, well, there we go. See, now, Azho is the other moderator. He's been my moderator forever, and he's been around forever. So, yeah, you might want to stay. He's stay on the good side of the guy with the demon devil dog. So, make sure you say, yeah, so there's that. Yeah, hating God is like hating Sauron. A fictional character's attributes make them unlikable. Yes, yes, but my all my mods have different attitudes about banning people. Yeah, I don't have. You're just insulting me. I'm like, up until this point, have we really banned anybody? No, we just timing. So you're just like, oh, you're banning people for express. I haven't seen an alternative theistic opinion yet expressed to ban. Okay, so it's just like, are you just going around to atheist channels and just posting that? It's like that's nice propaganda work. I know a few propaganda windmills that you could do that. It's like, if that's what you want to do, if that's your tactic, it's a shit tactic. And my bachelor's degree in ministry, and if I put my Christian hat back on, says that's a really shitty way to do things. You're not going to convince anybody about that way. So there's that. Uh, oh, so we double dipped into the name Bloody. Okay, yeah, it's another one of those guys with multiple accounts that just goes around and okay, yeah, ban him. I don't ban you for having an alternative opinion, though. I ban you because you're using what I consider to be a propaganda tactic. Okay, so if you have to have multiple accounts in order to make your point, I would say that your tactics are shitty. I have two accounts. I have a personal account and this one, and I run all my Rabyd Atheist stuff through this one, and then I run my personal searches, my interests, stuff that doesn't have anything to do with atheism or religion on my other one, because I want my search engines clear, kind of thing. And that's all I do. And you won't find me as an atheist going to a lot of theist channels trolling in their chat. I leave that to other people. Okay, I just don't feel the need. Okay, so there's that. All right, well, yeah, I'm not sure this is a type of atheist so much as somebody who dislikes the concept of God, certain concepts of God. And you could be a theist believing in another God and you just don't like the God of the Bible. So I'm not sure that this is a form of atheism. So, yeah, yeah, that's fair. It's fair. Yeah, I mean, if I had known what Asso just said, I would have banned him too. I hate people with multiple accounts because you're basically saying, I know I'm going to be an asshole. I know I'm going to be a jerk. And so I need another account so I can still get on later because I'm going to be timed out or banned. Like, it's like, Jesus, dude, you might want to check your attitude. I check your tactics.
Meaning, if this world with all its suffering is part of God's grand design, then I want no part of it. This kind of atheism isn't gentle or abstract, it's fierce.
I would agree with that if it was a form of atheism, but it's basically now I get that he's saying if God exists and this is his responsibility, this is God's world and it's part of his plan, then yeah, we should probably hate that motherfucker. But I just don't see him as real. And so I'm not really sure I hate him. Like if I found out, for instance, that God didn't have all power, for instance, um, and thus that's why he couldn't stop all the evil. Like there's some evil that even he couldn't deal with, or he isn't knowledgeable and everywhere present. Like he has to be in one place at one time. So yeah, then I could understand why some of this shit exists. But that's not the God that's often postulated. So, but yeah, I don't know. This one's kind of a weird form of atheism.
It's ethical. It doesn't just ask whether God exists. It asks whether such a being would even be worthy of existence. Some atheists in this group talk about the Abrahamic God, the one who commands genocide in the Old Testament, who sends people to hell for eternity, who demands blood sacrifices. And they say, this isn't a loving creator. This is a tyrant. If you heard this story outside of religion, you'd call it mythology or madness. So they reject not just the belief, but the morality behind it.
And here's the thing about this there are a lot of atheists like myself that do this. Like, I don't just reject the belief, I reject the morality behind belief. I think divine command theory has led to all kinds of very unethical decisions that are then wrapped in. And but I do agree, Brent. I don't think this is a genuine type of atheism, but it is something that atheists argue or look at. Um, Things like that. I can see where somebody has that viewpoint about the concept of God, because I definitely see Yahweh as an evil God. Like, if you really did a literature analysis of who the villain of the Bible is, I think Yahweh tops the list, because Satan just seems to be like a dude that kind of shows up every once in a while and maybe does something wrong, but mostly just accuses God of being a prick. So, and maybe that's an accurate thing for him to do. I mean, the serpent in the garden is the only one that tells the truth. So it's like, okay. But yeah, Green. If you're a philosophy loving gardener and you just, as long as people aren't getting in your business and you're not trying to get into their business and not being, I agree with you. I've had some very fruitful conversations with theists if they're willing to give and take. But a lot of theists just see it as their ministry to troll atheist channels for no damn good reason. They'll create multiple accounts to do that. And the moment we see that, I kind of like, yeah, ban the accounts, ban the multiple accounts. There's several that have been here that have suffered that fate. And then they'll go around accusing us of just banning them for no reason. It's like, no, that's not what the rule here is. Please, have a conversation. Don't be accusatory. Attack the idea, don't attack the person. So, and because people change in their viewpoints, they do. I know I did. So, I liked Myst. I played it for a while. I think I beat the game once and I moved on. the The problem, I love that game because it was the first game I really saw that wasn't like for me personally, it was like not a hack and slash kind of thing. I like games where I have to think. Let me give you an example. Like in D&D, there's hack and slash parties, and then there's like more of a puzzle solving parties. I'm more the latter. I'm a guy, when I do an adventure, I like puzzles to solve. I do like the occasional battle because that spices things up. Um, but I remember back in the day when I was playing second edition D&D, it was I liked like the module the Tomb of Horrors, which is mostly puzzles and death traps. I liked that a lot more than a lot of the other adventuring stuff that I did. But Myst was one of those games that I did play, and I remember it beating it. I had a lot of 90s games. You are correct about that. That's where I can make the claim that I played the original Fallout game. So like, whoa, and going back to Fallout 1 and 2. So I would play a game, beat it, and then I would move on to something else. And I think Myst was just one of those that fell in that category. So yeah. Okay, calling them the same God is a serious problem. Yes. Yeah, the Bible shows God of the Bible very evil. Yes. Slash dynamics. Oh, oh, yeah, but it's like like in the Tomb of Horrors. The reason I love that module is the first thing you find is a hallway, and the first thing you have to do is make sure like there's a path of stones going through the hallway, and the trick of it is you think, oh, if I follow the path, I'll avoid the traps. Yeah, no. And then it ends an arch with three lights, and if you push them, they go on and off, and the right combination does certain things and transports you to other parts of the dungeon, and other parts just annihilate you. So yeah, it was and back then, Dungeons and Dragons, the poison system was if you get poisoned, you're dead. So don't do that. All right, we're finally to the fourth kind of atheist. Let's see what
Then we
happens.
reach the fourth kind, and this one is the strangest and maybe the most thought-provoking. These atheists aren't interested in God because they see themselves as God, not in an arrogant or delusional way, but in a deeply philosophical one. They believe that consciousness, creativity, and meaning don't come from above, they emerge from within us.
Now, I'm not sure. Don't get me wrong. I get the idea of certain things coming from within and from human beings. I'm just not sure that this is a form of atheism, or this is more describing maybe a type of humanism, a type of understanding of. I don't see how any atheist would believe in themselves as God. I certainly don't. I do see that a lot of things that we are as human beings come from inside. Okay. Um, and that if we're going to answer our questions, they're going to come from inside too. So um, I get it, the concept behind here. I'm just not sure this is a type of atheism either. I just don't. If you're believing that yourself, that you are a god, even if it's a humble way, I'm not sure that that's really qualifies as an atheist at that point. All of that is proof without evidence, some sort of claim without evidence. I used to preach this gospel, sir, for 20 years, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's not true. There you go. That's my response now. And having apologetics in your name doesn't help. Doesn't give you a good rep out the way. Gosh, Will Wheaton. Oh, oh yeah, Amory. That his 20 against one thing, Peterson versus. It was funny because they originally titled it as, a Christian versus 20 atheists, and then he during the thing he's like, I'm not a Christian. I don't claim to be a Christian. And it's like, so they had to change the name to Jordan Peterson. I think that was an ego driven move. Like he wanted his name in the title, and so he found a way to get it there. But yeah, he has dodged that question many, many times. Are you a Christian? What are you? And I think the one kid who reacted to him did the absolute most appropriate thing in saying that he was a lot of nothing, because his word salad is nothing. His is nothing. He doesn't really say much of anything. Yes, think of a good conversation, but no preaching at me. Quoting Bible verses to somebody who preached from them for 30 years just doesn't really work there, LA. I'm going to be real with you. Okay, I know the Bible. Knowing the Bible actually made me an atheist. So there you go.
So why search for a sky father when the divine is in your own mind? This isn't new. The philosopher Ludwig Feuerbach argued that God is just a projection of human ideals.
Now, I can say that that's probably, when you look at mythology of any type, definitely is a projecting of human ideals. So, like, we postulate a God that's perfect, and what we really are doing is we're postulating our only definition of human perfection, and then we're putting a God around it. There's a lot of ideals in life that we wrap in skin, so to speak. So I can kind of see this one, that idea is very much present in mythology. And what these people are saying is, well, really, it's just our projecting our humanness. So we might as well just embrace our humanness. That I can get behind, I guess. So you like to say you're God because it pisses off people. That's fair. That's fair. Go ahead, Blossom. You don't mind my permission, but yeah, I can see that. We are gods is somewhat narcissistic. Yeah, I mean, he's trying to say they're doing it in a humble way, but it's like, I see incredible flaws in humanity. And when we do this too, like, it's not that we just project our good traits into the gods, we also project our negative ones. Like, if you look at Norse mythology, Thor is a very positive figure because he's bravery, courage, strength. But what is Loki? Loki isn't always the bad guy either, but he's deception, he's trickery, he's like, and the Vikings embraced both sides of their nature. Like, they didn't see necessarily badness and trickery. Like, if you were clever, I think when you look at, I used to be a Trekkie, and I used to look at Klingon philosophy. Klingon philosophy is a lot like that too. Like, they value bravery, courage, strength, but they're also like, if you're clever like a fox and come up behind your enemy and destroy him, a bird of prey, yeah. So what do we mean when we're projecting human values. I think the inherent flaw I've always had in this viewpoint is we don't just do this with the positive traits of humanity, we do it with the negative and try to rationalize it into something good. So there you go.
When we say God is wise, merciful, powerful, we're just talking about the qualities we value most. We turn them into a being and worship them. But in reality, it's us. We are the ones who invented God in our own image.
And I've made that argument many, many times, and it's still true. When you look at any God representation, it's something that human beings have created and they've cast in their own image. It's something that we have built. And that's just true. The more you study like the Bible, the more you realize it's a human book written by human beings that a lot of people have taken way too seriously um, as we've gotten older. All the mythological forms, it's something that we wrote. Back then we didn't write, fantasy fiction. We wrote mythology and then called it real. So it's like the more we have lived, the more we've learned. We've kind of learned that this is kind of true. We take our own qualities and we project them onto the gods and wrap them in godlike skin. So follow that with the exception of the divine concept. Yes, I don't think I need the divine concept of me being a god to make this kind of statements. I can definitely see that we have projected our stuff onto others. So, but I can definitely see that we've created stuff. So I don't look like a damn bit like Fangs. I'm not supposed to be. What? I'll have to deal with that question later. Christians of the Borg, they think resistance is futile. Yeah, there we go. You're about. Yeah. Yeah, things happen. I was wondering when that would happen. It's, I don't know. The people that last longest on this channel are people that kind of hide themselves and what they're really about until they reveal it. But I don't know. I've gotten to the point where I have a great desire to have a good conversation with people, but at the same time, I very rarely get it. I've been on some streams where I've had good conversations, but I don't know if I get good conversation on the chat anymore. Um, a lot of it is what we see where people just come on here and, they got their viewpoint and that's great. But then you point out the flaws in it, they don't really deal with it. So, thanks. And yeah, I'm a night elf. So there's that. Here, where am I on this? See, I am not Fangs. Those of you who grew up with the doctrine of the Trinity should understand this perfectly. Okay. Okay. I don't know why you people, if you are a Christian, there you are a Trinitarian Christian, you can absolutely understand the unholy Trinity of Fangs. Okay. We have me, the night elf. Okay. In my true form, I'm a night elf. I am the prophet of Fangs. I am the only one that gives true doctrine of Fangs. But that's fairly crooked and not necessarily true in the final sense, because I have to be really vague there, like all religious leaders. And then we have Earl, the lap in which our Lord naps, who is a prophetic artist and projects her prophecies through her art. And then we have the Lord Fangs, who naps there and who speaks to me and her in different ways. And I don't understand why we have the night elf and funny. So there you go. It's a pretzel explanation, Blossom. If you really get down and dirty with Jesus and listen to what Jesus says about himself, he never describes himself as God. Like they point blank ask him several times, and he still dodges that, like Jordan Peterson dodges questions. Like I think I know where Jordan Peterson gets his idol. It's Jesus, because when Jesus gets confronted about shit, he dodges that shit. Okay, as particularly when it comes to "Are you God?" Okay, because he's point blank asked that several times. So there's that aspect. So I get the agnostic thing. I was there too. I get the idea of non-existence being frightening. I was there too. Um, Now I'm kind of more have a more of a Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain attitude about it. You know, like at some point I'm going to cease this existence, and it's going to be a wonderful thing that I don't have to deal with this shit anymore. Okay, I haven't quite got there yet, but you know, it's like the sweet bliss of oblivion. I'm starting to embrace that a lot more. Okay, after a while, you begin to realize eternal life isn't all that's cracked up to be. So, but but I get it, and I'm absolutely respectful of the state that you're in right now, Heb. I absolutely, I absolutely understand where you're at. Okay, and I have a my even down here my empathy part of me is really going off for you because I know exactly where you're at. I was there for a long time. This deconversion thing is an emotional thing, and it's a roller coaster sometimes, and I get it. So yeah, he Jesus is a slippery bastard when you read the dialogue, like that character, because he might very well just be a character in fiction. What a slippery dude! Like when he gets asked questions, he either like does the. It's like I said. I think Jordan Peterson must have took notes about how Jesus handled questions because he handled them the same way. So yeah, you don't really have to be afraid of death. It's kind of here's where I will help you. When you're dead and there's nothing, you won't be afraid of it anymore. So it's literally. I actually think the Vikings had a good attitude about that. Why should I be afraid of something that's inevitable? Um, I am going to die. So why be afraid of something and waste my emotional energy about it when I could be living life? I would be more afraid of not living my life to the fullest. That's kind of the attitude I take right now. Like right now, my whole thing is I want to have the best life I can possibly have given the situation and live it to the fullest and enjoy it as much as possible. And I have more of a fear of not doing that than I do of death because once death comes, I won't have any feelings about it at all. So it's like that's a good thing. So he doesn't answer much, does he? Yeah, but I feel you. I feel you. Don't be upset with that. I've had people come on here. I'm still struggling with hell, even though I don't believe it. Emotional belief systems kind of kick in the heart for a long time. I've been deconverting now for quite some time, and I still have stuff. That's why I'm in therapy half the time. So, oh my goodness. Let's see, I think I missed one. So, yeah, it's Super Jesus. Could be. What a miracle. It's getting easier. I try to have a supportive community. Not this week because I'm off this week. I'm on vacation, but usually on a weekly basis, I have what's called the deconversion hangout on Thursdays. If you're able to attend or watch that, I try to keep this unruly crowd in my chat, who I love very much, focused on deconversion issues. So if you're struggling with something emotionally, you can always leave a comment there, and I will be happy to answer you as best I can. I am off next week, though. I want to make that very clear. So, yeah, look, yeah, Elizabeth, you got lucky there. I will agree with that. Let's see. Okay. Let's put back.
Fourth type of atheist flips
Oh,
the
oh, oh.
script and says, I don't need to worship anyone, I'll take responsibility myself. They often mock the endless religious debates. How many angels can dance on a pin? Is it halal or haram to do X or Y? Should you face this direction or that when you pray? Why does a God care about what people eat or wear or say on weekends? It all seems petty.
Also, all valid points. All valid points. I think the one that hit me the most was when it was one of the debates with Christopher Hitchens. He was debating somebody and says, why does God care who I sleep with and in what position? Like, it seems really petty, silly, stupid. And when you look at a lot of this stuff, it's very control mechanism. Like if you can control people's money, behavior, and their sex life in particular, you can control them pretty hard. Um, and church does that. So there's that. Oh, yeah, it's the actual dying part. I think we're all afraid of Triple E. It's not. Okay. I've been at the bedside of a lot of people dying as a pastor, and it's never a good moment. I don't care what they believed or didn't believe. Those final moments of life are not good for a lot of people. Um, uh, I know that this aspect and then becoming an atheist changed my view on end of life and what we should do about it. Maybe I'll do a video about that sometime later. But like I remember when Robin Williams killed himself. I was pissed off. So there was that. But now it's like, I get it. I absolutely get it. Oh, thank you, Triple E and Ronald. Who got that membership? Rainbow Ash got that membership. So thank you, Ronald. I appreciate you. And we did reach the point where I will wear the first hat. And we're up to 6 things. Um, so I'm going to see if I can wear this over the earphones. Although I'm almost done with the video, so I may just, he doesn't make too many more points on this fourth tip, and then he just recaps the rest. Um, what I think I will observe, and I'm going to, I'm going to end the video at this point because he's not going to say anything new after that. Uh, but it's like what I'll have to say about the different types of atheism that he he does here is I'm not sure all of them are atheism, but it is stuff that atheists say. I have to be fair to him. Like the rest of the video, if you want to watch it, it's in the link is in the description. But he isn't disparaging towards atheists. He's not mad at them. He doesn't seem to think that they're wrong. Okay, it's just I'm not sure. See, my problem with what he did in the video, and this is the big one, um, is like it leads to the discussion: can atheism become a worldview? And that was what my interest was can I push this into a worldview? And he kind of takes steps that direction. The problem is, in order to get it into that kind of worldview, you have to kind of somehow turn it into religion. So you've never found a God worthy of worshiping. Yeah, thanks, Ron. I do appreciate you guys gifting stuff. That's great. Okay, so what you're saying, Blossom, here is the reason he cares what position we sleep in is he wants the right kind of porn for himself. I mean, there are some gods who I don't want to gross anybody out because Earl just got wet in a thunderstorm, but there are some gods. You do know what rain is to some mythology. It's seminal fluid to some of them. So So, if God's got to jerk off, he wants the right kind of porn. So that's what he wants to see. Okay. I suppose that's a fair point. uh, yeah, he wasn't a God. I don't think a God that's self-actualized would want anybody to worship them. He wouldn't have the need. Like if you have all the power already, what do you need to be worshipped for? I When I got to the end of the video, if you want to watch the rest of it, that was kind of my thought that there's a lot of overlap. Like there's a lot of elements of all his types of atheists that he presents that are me. Like I have some of that in me. Like I'm an anti-theist, but I don't know if I'm an angry one. Okay, I try to be a compassionate one. Because like when people come to my channel, I want to reach out with compassion if they're deconverting or they're a Christian and they have honest, genuine questions. I still have a lot of compassion towards people in religion because I used to be there. There's a part where, yes, I don't think the God is logically consistent. And if such a God did exist, I wouldn't like him. So that's kind of my issue with this video is like there's a lot of element of truth in it. The only problem I have with it is it seems to foster the idea of atheism as a worldview. And I don't think it can be a worldview. I don't know how the lack of belief in God like turns necessarily into a moral system flowing out of that lack of belief in God. I think you can develop moral systems without God being assumed. That's a completely different thing than drawing your morality out of the idea of no God. So, yeah, RMP Patch Adams. Yes, I remember when I heard about Robin Williams' death, I was mad because it's like he committed suicide and it's like he deleted himself. And it's like, but then I thought about it after I learned what his disease was. And I'm like, holy shit, I guess I would be facing that question too. It's like, if you know you're going to have a horrible end, okay, wouldn't you want to do it a different way? I don't know. I find it interesting. Now it's a different question for me. And I'm still thinking about it, but it's like, yeah, self deletion is like, if the program's really bad and painful, why wouldn't you push the delete button, kind of thing? So I don't know. Yeah, I have a series on here about spiritual disciplines somewhere on my channel. You can look it up. I can't remember where it is, but is there any value to? And I still find value in meditation, where I clear my head and. But I'm not sure if it's meditation so much as a mental exercise. So, a really needy being. I don't know. Maybe it's because he's gone. Uh, Fangs Bunny. Oh, mod streaming at 9:30. Okay, I might be there. I might show up. I'm on vacation, so I can do what the hell I want. So, at least for the next few days. So, yeah, I think the thing with Buddhism, Elizabeth, I've seen the discussion. They have no more proof of all the woo bullshit in Buddhism than Christianity has in the Trinity. Like it's the same kind of woo level to me. So, oh, I learned that in Bible college of all places, Earl, because we were studying Baal. Okay, and Baal has a mother goddess that is his consort goddess, and so when it rained on the earth, that's when the god and the goddess were having sex. So there you go. There's stuff you didn't want to know. So, but yeah, it was. I learned that in Bible college because we were studying the ancient deities of the Old Testament and to better understand them. And I'm like, oh, ew. Oh, yeah, I don't know. See, the thing about, okay, Cranky, all my Lovecraftian lore, I have never seen an elder god express a desire for worship. In fact, I've very rarely seen an elder god express shit. Okay. You're the most talkative elder god I know, and you don't say much. it's oh, oh, there's an omnipresent God that never always. I saw the porn scene. They were filmed. Yes. Oh, yes. Jim Jones is a good example of somebody who thought he was God. Um, I remember how much the Assembly of God tried to distance themselves from Jim Jones, but they are in it. He is in their history. Yeah, it's very liberating when you don't have to go through God as an answer. It's been one of my most liberating things is like looking up the real answer for things, like trying to find. It's much more nice when I don't have to assume God. So I get your Robin Williams. He left the building before it stopped being him because when you realize how much your brain and who you are go together, and if your brain starts getting altered and things like that, you're not yourself. And I don't want. I guess I could see I don't want people because Robin Williams was always the funny guy, and I get that that's because he fought with depression all the time, and so he knew what it's like to be sad, so he wanted other people happy too. That's why he became a comedian. But the more I saw it, I'm like, how long could he have gone and done that with his condition before all of that would have been gone? And I think he just like, I'm done. I'm not going to have that happen to me. I don't want people seeing me that way. And so he left the building before he wasn't himself. I think that's a pretty good way of putting it. So, yeah, Buddhism has its high points. So I'm not saying that. I just think a lot of the woo is still woo. The concept horrifies me too. I kind of that's where I'm at with this. Do you think that something can be known about? I don't know. My autistic brain wants to think of this as a false dichotomy. Okay, I always hate it when I'm only given two choices. Pisses me off actually, and I immediately try to put it into something else. Um, I think something if such supernatural phenomena did exist, it does affect the real world, so you would be able to test it and quantify it. But seeing we can't do that, maybe it doesn't exist. So I'm not really sure that's a valid dichotomy, to be honest. Um, I don't, I'm not sure. To me, it seems like we're pushing that discussion down a certain role, and I think there's other ways we could look at it. Yeah, yeah, science makes much more sense. Yeah, I would say it's either backwards or it's not a thing. Yeah, that's the problem. I have also heard beautiful stories of this. Like there's a story of a lady that had a terminal disease and that she knew like she was going to cease to be herself in a very short amount of time, and so she had a party and she lived in a state where assisted end of life was possible. And after she had a party, said goodbye to all her friends, she laid down and got the injection and passed on. So it's like I can see why people would do it. Okay, so yeah, I'm not a big fan of binary choices. So yeah, but faith doesn't have any value, and I'm not even sure it's really a thing other than what human beings make up. See, that's another slippery term that can take multiple meanings and be you. If you're talking about whether I believe in a God or don't, I don't. Do I believe in supernatural stuff? No. And my belief is based on the fact that nobody has given me sufficient evidence for their existence. And I suppose in that sense, on the one side, I'm on the agnostic side, but on the other side, I also think that if supernatural things existed, you could quantify them. Like they would have an effect on the real world. You know, if magic existed and you cast a fireball spell, there'd be a fireball. You know, okay, there would be something to measure. So, and many don't believe the guy. Is it legal in Aussie? Okay. Are you another Aussie, Joe Heb? Are you another Aussie? Because I have several. Between Fred and Bren and you, got a lot of Aussies. I mean, yeah, it's about knowledge, but I don't know. There's a train of thought that crosses both lines. That's why the dichotomy is bothering me. I think. I guess I've thought a bit about it, and there's just I don't know. You're citing a definition from who? I don't have a problem with Aussies. I want to visit Australia someday. I would actually like to go to Australia, and whenever the New Zealand All Blacks and the Aussie national team are playing each other, I want to watch that in rugby. I want to see it. I want to see it live once. So I've developed a love for rugby, seeing that American football has become more wussy. So we have too many rules protecting people. When I played American football, it was a man's sport. I'm not sure that's true anymore. I have the injuries to prove it. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just I'm not convinced any. I don't believe that things exist. So I suppose I'm an agnostic atheist in that sense. The only thing I'm gnostic about is the current expressions that claim to exist. I'm fairly certain they don't. So yeah. I, okay, now you confuse me. Yeah, I've saw league and I've saw union, both. I just want to see rugby football played by people who know how to play it. Because I've watched the Aussies and the All Blacks of New Zealand and several others. I got into the rugby when I was teaching World Geo, and we were doing Polynesia and how culture of Polynesians still affects the modern world. And it was the haka of the All Blacks that was a good example of that. So, and then I started watching rugby. And I'm like, hey, this is kind of cool. Like this is football before they invented the forward pass, you know. So so and though I wonder, even our own national fall. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's why religions and stuff exist. Delusion is something that we like to do. It helps us. So AU, yeah, East Coast League. Okay. All right. Yeah. See, I'm oblivious to leagues. Probably as much as some people in Australia are oblivious to American football's leagues, although it tends to be more popular. You're a hard definitionist. Yeah, we need one of those around here. You always wanted to pet a wombat? Okay, there you go. Is that safe? That's safe. Sounds cool, but is it safe? I don't really have a favorite yet, Robert. I just like the sport, and we have an American rugby league here, but it's interesting that how many players are on. It's in the off season for the rest of the international community, and so it's interesting that a lot of these rugby teams in the United States, are like 15 of them, certainly not as popular as other American sports, but it's amazing how many of those teams have players from the international community suddenly show up and be on the team for a while to keep in practice. So, like, I recognized one guy I was watching. I'm like, I've seen him before. Oh, yep, he plays on this team. So I just can't remember who he was, but it was like, yep, see those guys. So it's like, there's a reason why American Rugby League is in the off season for everybody else. So they actually get good players. uh, yeah, I just don't see it's a valid dichotomy, Top G. I don't know. I just is. Uh, yeah, I just don't see that as a valid dichotomy. I hate dichotomies to begin. When you give me an A B choice, my brain does not like it. Okay, it's like because I always think that there must, I've dealt with theists for so long, and they love dichotomies. They love it's got to be either this or that. I'm like, why can't it be this, this, and this? The other three things that you haven't mentioned. So it's like, yeah. Uh, I don't think Jordan Peterson is defendable. He's had some moments, like when he took on the reporter. I felt he was right about that. She was definitely straw manning him and doing all kind. But the man, I now have come to the conclusion with long dealings with Jordan Peterson that he's a charlatan. Like he says a lot of things, but he doesn't say anything. So oh, I regularly make fun of Jordan Peterson. Uh, in the middle of a mental crisis, that's possible. I mean, he got his ass handed to him against those 20 atheists. Holy shit. Rationality Rules is only beginning to break that down. And I'm like watching his breakdown. I've watched the whole thing, and it's like, holy damn, Jordan, you got your butt handed to you. Um, it's like it wasn't even close. And these were all young people. Like they were young atheists that just cleaning his clock. And I'm like, and I'm glad Rationality Rules finally did show the most common fallacy that Jordan Peterson does, which is Mott and Bailey. Like he'll say something completely off the wall, and then he'll retreat to something that's a little bit more defendable, and then somehow magically his original assertion is true because he defended something less controversial. It's probably his go-to. So yeah, he said the same crap for 10 years. It's actually been longer than that, but okay. He's either a very sincere believer that is very, very wrong, or he's a fraud. And he's found a way to make money doing a lot of word salad because he literally will contradict himself on the stage. He won't answer questions. He backs off of shit. The more you study the way he talks and debates, it's just he's not saying anything. Like everybody thinks he's saying something, but when you really break it down, he's not saying anything. Just because it's complicated. Yeah, you missed the video. I kind of got done with it. I didn't find the guy bad, Alex. So you can look back through it and you can look at the original video and you can make your own mind up. But I didn't think he was bad in this sense. I just don't think that there are four types of atheists. I really only think there's one. If you don't have a belief in any God or deity, you're an atheist. And it doesn't matter if you're a gnostic one or agnostic one or, you have problems with religion or not. It's really the belief question. So, uh, okay. Does it have any value or meaning though? Like, when he says something, is it validated as true? Just because he says something that sounds profound doesn't mean that it's true. You know, I don't know. It's been brutal. Like, I think the most valid criticism of Jordan Peterson was you're a lot of nothing because he refuses to take a stand on what he is. Well, I'm not a Christian. Well, what are you then? Well, I can't define what I am because, I'm way ahead of you all. Like, it's like the condescension was pretty legion in that Jubilee thing. So it was pretty bad. So false dichotomy. Yeah, I just don't. I don't know. That could be. I don't know. There might be many options for Jordan Peterson. There are times when I think he sincerely believes what he's saying, but I'm not even sure if you wrote what he says out it. Like the one guy criticism, well, in common parlance, and Jordan's response was, "I don't care about common parlance." Well, how the hell do we communicate then? Like, literally, you're admitting that you don't want to communicate in normal language with normal people, so you can be fuzzy. Okay, so yeah, I lose a lot of respect for somebody if they don't want to, But he's always moving the goalposts and not impaling it. So, uh, no. Word salad is a legitimate term when people just say a lot of words, but when you analyze what they say, they didn't say anything. And Jordan does that a lot. If you analyze the truth of his claims and whether something is true, what he says, it's his opinion, man. Okay, so like, yeah, I've listened to Jordan Peterson enough to know when I hear him say something profound, supposedly, I analyze what he actually said, and it's not really. If you try to fact check it, it just isn't there. Imaginative, unsupported by the evidence. Mm, I'm not sure he's even been consistent about that, though. I don't think it's misused with Jordan Peterson. I don't think it's misused with him at all. Don't worry about boxes, I guess. I mean, if you love Jordan Peterson, you're welcome to it. If you bring something up he says, I'm going to challenge it. So, hmm, then it's a natural, and we're supernatural, which would also allow us to examine the Creator scientifically and find evidence for it. I think that's probably valid. I mean, if there is a God, we should be able to use whatever is at our disposal to analyze and prove that they exist. And apparently, we've either are colossal failures with that, or God doesn't exist. So, well, okay, Joan, goodbye. Yes, he has way too many metaphors and analogies, which is another weakness of his argumentation form. Christians really should despise him because he's openly, pretty much blatantly said he's not a Christian. So, without saying so. So, okay, so this is something that Jordan does a lot too, there, Top G. If I don't understand it, it must be over my head because Jordan can't be wrong. He did that in his debate. Like, he's like, well, I can't help it that you don't understand what I'm saying. Well, then become a better communicator because you suck. Okay. It's like, that's an ad hominem attack, by the way. Like, well, you don't get it because you don't understand it. I'm smarter than you. That's an ad hominem attack. He does that all the time. Okay. When he gets cornered on something, he immediately goes to his Mott and Bailey tactic, or he will, like with the one debate, he's like, well, you're really something. Well, like he's not engaging the guy's question at that point. He's accusing him of being arrogant. And the guy responds, well, fine, if you're going to do that to me, then you're really a lot of nothing, aren't you? And really, I'm sorry, if you're going to say it's just going over my head, that's why I don't understand it. And that's why I don't agree with it. It's like, no, I've studied what Jordan says. I've read a couple of his books, and I'm like, there's a lot of nothing there. He makes a lot of money. I think he should probably take all his money and retire. So, so you get it and he gets it, but I don't. You do realize that sounds a hell of a lot arrogant, Top G. Like you've arrived at something. I've dealt with this before. Oh, wait, where was that? Oh, yeah, Christianity, where people say we got the truth and everybody doesn't get it. This is a poor argumentation tactic. It's just bad. Okay, learn to communicate better then. There's my phone number. He knows how to convince me. The fact that he hasn't bothered implies that he he must be fine with your atheism. Yes, love that quote. Yes, and Fedorsky, okay, Ostrowski is a fiction writer, and the fact that Jordan Peterson thinks that all atheists are represented by characters in fiction is a problem. Okay, and that reference alone should tell you, Jordan, hey, knock off giving that reference because that's just one fictional writer's opinion about atheism. Okay, but he takes it as the gospel. Carl Jung, he's disputed. Joseph Campbell is disputed. It's like, I get all that. Okay. My point is this: Jordan acts like he knows it and understands it better than everybody else. And really, he's just being arrogant. So, yeah, I don't mind it when I read somebody old and they make a good point and I can still think about it, but no. So, no, I'm sorry. It's a perfectly, if you're sitting there arrogantly presupposing that I don't get something, that's why I don't believe what he's saying. Okay, and I'm just not smart enough. That's an ad hominem. Okay, that's a logical fallacy argument. I'm just saying, communicate what you're saying better. Okay, if you're going to, that's a perfectly legitimate criticism of anybody who isn't communicating what they're saying well. Take the word, break it down, communicate it better. It's what we as teachers used to do when I was teaching. How can I communicate this better so that they can understand it? I don't sit there in my arrogant ivory tower saying, well, I just get it and the rest of you don't. I'm asking myself the question, how do I communicate that better? That is not a weak defense. That's a valid criticism. And only people who have that ivory tower mentality would say it's a weak defense. Sorry, dude, you're beginning to piss me off. And I'll tell you why you're pissing me off. Because an obvious thing would be, okay, if people aren't understanding this, what I shouldn't do is go into my ivory tower, well, I understand it and everybody else doesn't, that's their problem. It should be, if you're humble enough, go, well, maybe I'm not communicating very well and maybe I need to find a way to communicate this better. Okay, and I understand Jungian archetypes and I don't agree with them. so, I mean, he's not articulate. He's going around the bush and doesn't say shit. Okay. Collective unconsciousness. That's a completely weird word. Define it. What is so hard about defining it and communicating that a little bit better? So, yeah. Yeah, thanks, Earl. Yeah, see, this is the problem. It's going to fly over your head. Okay, well, why don't you aim better? Okay, why don't you shoot your bullets so they actually hit the target instead of go overshooting? Okay, I'm sorry. It's an arrogant position to have as a teacher. It's the one thing I had to get rid of is I understand this, so I'm better than my students. No, I had to be humble enough to say I need to communicate this better so that they can actually understand it. What's a way to communicate it that they would understand it? Jordan Peterson doesn't do that. He stays with his word salad, and it's a perfect legitimate criticism. Yeah, another valid one. Can collective conscience be defined as 25? Yeah, I mean, if you can't communicate them, like one of my goals with understanding what I was teaching when I was teaching was, can I communicate this to myself where I actually understand it? And I'm sorry, I don't see, either the guy we just kicked off or Jordan Peterson being humble enough to sit there and say, well, maybe I'm not communicating this well and I need to communicate it a different way. They don't change. Okay. Jordan Peterson has never changed the way he gives his arguments. Okay. He doesn't find better ways to communicate them. He doesn't sit there during a dialogue and say, well, maybe I'm not communicating. I've never heard him say that. Okay. It's always like, I'm thinking higher thoughts than the rest of you. And so I don't get it. I don't get the attitude that sits there and says, well, if everybody doesn't get it, then I get it and they don't, and that's why I'm superior. It's like, yeah, fuck that noise. I don't have time for that. Okay. Communicate it better. It's an honest, genuine criticism of anybody who communicates. Like I take that criticism too. Like if I don't feel like I'm communicating something on this channel well, I'm like, okay, is there another way to explain this? Okay, I didn't say I didn't understand it. I'm simply saying that the understanding of it is bad because of the way it's worded. Okay, I can get the idea if I looked it up. That's not the issue. The issue is when you sit here and say, okay, well, you just don't understand collective unconsciousness, but I'm not going to explain it better to you so that you can, but I understand it so I'm better than you. It's an ad hominem. It's diminishing somebody because they don't understand things the way you do. Sorry, he made my point too. Okay, he made my point, and Jordan makes that point to me every time I hear him talk. Like he's in that debate between the atheists, and his whole attitude was, I'm here to enlighten the rest of them. I'm not here to learn anything. I'm the professor, and they're all my students. And when they don't say what I want them to say, then they're just wrong. Okay. It's a concept introduced regarding a conscious mind that is shared by all humans, stemming from inherent ancestral experiences. That's not hard to understand. Okay. Now, whether that's a thing, do we have any evidence that this is a thing, psychologically speaking or neurology speaking? Do we have that, or is it just a concept of Jung? I mean, I can disagree with Jung. I can say Carl Jung's full of shit too. 300 characters. Yeah, I mean, he uses a shit ton of words that he could use different ones, explain more clearly what he meant, but he never does it. Okay, so why not? I'm not asking him to dumb it down. I'm asking him to explain it clearly. There's a very big difference. When you're a teacher, okay, you're not thinking of it dumbing it down. You're thinking, is there a different way to explain it? It's not a question of dumbing anything down. It's a question of, can you explain it in a different way that's more understandable to people? Okay. But he never does that. Strange. It's almost like he does the vagary on purpose so he can inflate his own ego. I think that's probably part of it. Like, I understand this. So, uncollected mind, huffs and puffs. Yeah, but I'm sorry. I spent enough time as a teacher, even my Christian days as a pastor and a teacher, and it's like, if my people aren't if the people I'm trying to communicate aren't getting it, my thought is, okay, can I find a different way to explain this? It's not dumbing it down. It's like, is there another way that'll get through to the person what I'm actually explaining? But I don't understand the mentality that says, well, I get it, you don't, so therefore you're wrong. Like, no. Okay, it doesn't mean I'm wrong. It just means I don't understand it. Those are two different things. But I do understand Carl Jung because I've read it. Okay, and I disagree with him. Okay, on several points. I disagree with almost everybody I read. Okay, so it's like, but I have that ability. But I've listened to Jordan Peterson for years, and there's a lot of times I went back and looked at what he said, and like, this man just didn't say shit. He said a lot of words, but he didn't really say anything. And other people have documented that here on YouTube. So yeah, it's like it's, it could be. Yeah, it's possible that happens. Uh, well, or any belief system. Jung postulates that like belief in God might be a collective consciousness of the past of our ancient ancestors that has been passed off as a genetic trait. So, there's a lot of people that kind of go down that road, and just because it's a collective does it matter how it's pronounced? Actually, I've seen people pronounce it both, heard people pronounce it both ways. So your answer to me is to be insulting. Nice, thanks, appreciate it. I really do believe he's a con guy. I really do. I think he knows he's deliberately vague, and he stays deliberately vague for that reason. So, thanks, mods. I really hate it when people like. I'm sorry, it's not dumbing it down. It's like if you're not communicating well, and a person says, "I don't understand what you're getting at," your obvious answer isn't, "Well, I understand something that you don't," and that's the end of it. It should be being humble enough to say, well, maybe I need to communicate this a little bit better and communicate it in a way that the person understands so we can have a common conversation. But that's not the attitude here. The attitude is, I understand something and you guys don't get it. And Jordan does that, and apparently his followers do that too. so, so, yeah, our society shares the same delusion. Its way to reality, but I see, and that's the part that I think JP misses. Like, it could be societal sharing the same ancient delusion that's passed on to their children. So it's like it cuts both ways, but he never wants to bring that out. So, like, I thank you, Earl. I appreciate it. I don't know what to do with this anymore. It's like, I've read him. I don't necessarily find him vague. I just find him going around in circles, and it appeals to people who like that sort of thing. But I don't disagree with everything he says. I just like, there are times like when he talks about God, he doesn't know what he's doing. He just doesn't. But no, I'm sorry. Once again, oh, you just don't understand what he's saying. Well, then explain it to me. Yeah, I I always watch accounts that just don't seem to land up. Yeah, that's kind of my point here. I mean, if you can't rephrase something so to make it easier to understand, then you don't actually understand it. Okay. How well can you explain what you think you know? And Jordan Peterson obviously has a problem explaining what he knows. And either that's deliberate or he has a character flaw that doesn't allow him to see the need to do that. Okay. Like, I don't understand why this is such a hard problem for some people. It's like Jordan just becomes everybody's fanboy because he has certain viewpoints on things. But I don't know. Yeah, he didn't do any excellent communication at Jubilee debate. Like, we get literally have rationality rules breaking down every person, and like this is bullshit. Okay, like he he'll be asked a question and he'll bring up something completely different, unrelated to the question. So JP's fallacy to me. Yeah, it's yeah. He has many. Yeah, I mean, if you can get it down to something simple, yes, no, like if my frustration sometimes with my students is they weren't getting something, but I didn't take it out on them. And it's like, well, I understand it, and that's just too bad for you. Okay, if you're going to be a good teacher, the one thing you better develop is a humility about how you're communicating. Like, I did that all the time. I'm like, I'm not sure I'm communicating this well, and I find a different way to do it. It's like, and in my finding a different way to do it, I often enlighten my own understanding of the subject. So, but yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, he is a trained psychologist. Yes. So yes, I if I was a trained psychologist, I would know what I was doing and how to do it in such a way to be deceptive. So you could do. I don't know. It's a great answer. It is, but I just don't. I, gosh, I'm trying to remember the last time I heard Jordan Peterson say, "I don't know." So I think he knows what he's doing. It's why. See, he's a smart enough man. It seems like either he's completely oblivious to what he's doing, or he is a con. Okay, one or the other. Um, and he knows what he's doing. And going on Jubilee was probably a bad PR move. Okay, because he got crucified. I'm sorry. You know, I mean, they demonstrated over and over and over again his circling the wagons. I think Mott and Bailey is a perfect thing that rationality rules because it is the thing he does the most. He'll say something off the wall and then he'll retreat to something that's a little bit more defendable. But then everybody forgets the bullshit off the wall thing he said. So, two debates you can master with him. Yes. Oh, you can do that. Yeah, he knew what he was doing, but he came off as arrogant in the Jubilee thing. Like, I know I'm here to lecture all of you, and I guess I've seen that in a couple of his followers today too. And it's like, you obviously don't understand it. That's why you don't agree with them. And it's like, it's the same argument that Christians make when they say, if you understood Christianity, you'd be a Christian. It's the same flawed logic. Okay. And it's like you can understand somebody and disagree with them. Okay. So, yeah. Yeah. I know that a couple of them are doing it too, but, you know, uh, the Catholic tomato. Where is the Catholic tomato? It's one of my favorite pieces, by the way, is the Catholic Pope. There we go. There we go. And so yeah, it's just I I don't know. I mean, I applauded JP a couple of times when it comes to like the one reporter that tried to basically make shit up about him. He nailed her to the wall, and I felt that was perfect because it sent a message to everybody in the media with everybody: don't make shit up about somebody and try to do that. But after that, you know, the Mormonians. Let's see. You have the Mormonians as your favorite. I'm giving out favorites today. Let's see. Cropped this a couple of times. So, oh yes, this is the one that's my favorite with the Mormonians. Oh, well, there's that. Oh, and where are my manners? And then of course the other part of the Catholic one. Yeah, so many binkies. There's so many binkies in this. Oh man. Oh my goodness. I've had more fun with this picture than I care to imagine. I the first time I saw it, I laughed for like a good 10 minutes. Couldn't stop. So uh, it's a Rotten Tomato review. We'll go back to the Catholic Pope. They should replace it. I think so. Oh, but yeah. Oh, yeah, the marinara sauce. Yes, the onions are hilarious. I had to admit that, but I like this one too. Um, because purifying the marinara sauce and the bread. It's a binky. Here, here. Let me show you that the pink thingy. That's a binky. I know it probably has lots of different names around the world. Yeah, there you go. That's a pacifier, and then, a lot of Americans call it binkies. So, but yeah, this is still my favorite emoji. Oh my goodness. Oh, a dummy. Okay, there you go. Guys, for those of you in Australia, that just makes it even more funny. Kind of judgmental. Yeah, no shit. Oh my goodness. That even makes it better. Oh, yeah, pacifier, the plug. Yeah, those are words I hear in Michigan too. So, okay, showing here. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair. There's plugs that are given. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's pacifier. I think we have a 10 commandment related to that, don't we? One of the Fangdamits is about not taking pacifiers away from onions, as I recall. Correct? Am I remembering my Fangdamits? Uh, uh, Thou shalt not, yeah, commandment number 9, thou shalt not deprive any onion babies of their binkies or fangs of his carrots. I was reading that correctly. Okay. So there you go. You're not allowed to take the binkies away. So, oh, this cult, this religion I've created out of whole cloth, too, just because of a mispronouncing by closed captioning of my name. So, yes, so it is written. Let it be done. No, no. Yes, fangs is please. So, oh my goodness, what a great deity. Illustrates so many points. Well, folks, I'm going to call it good. My heat sensitivity has gotten to a point where I need to cool off. And it's been a great night. I don't know, did we have a record for timing out people tonight? I have no idea. But thanks for all the people that donated, including the membership and all the other stuff. I appreciate all of you. It's a fun way of absolutely, raising money, but I like to do it in a fun way, and I absolutely love Fangs and all the rest of it and the great stuff that we go. But we do need to go. So thanks everybody for stopping by. I appreciate all of you. I'm not sure what type of atheist I am of the four. I'll have to say that little bits and pieces have broken off, and some parts of those weren't atheistic, so I'm not sure I'm some of them there. So, but it was a good video to watch and thought provoking. And I want to thank Quiet Inquiry is the channel name. I'll thank them for that video. I actually gave him a like for it, so because he wasn't condescending about it or anything like that. So it's a good one to watch. So yes, blessed be for Fangs. He nibbled for our sins, sharp pointy teeth, and deliver us from corrupted vegetables. May forever nibble at your heart and grant you everlasting whiskers or wisdom. And yes, please hop towards the like button, subscribe to our benevolent dictator, the name that all fuzzy, unholy, slightly ridiculous, nom, nom, nom. So there is that. So thanks everybody for stopping by. I appreciate all of you. I'll be gone all next week. I just want to remind everybody that there may be some videos dropping. There'll be short ones probably because I'm going to try, if I can, to work on some intros and an outro. So and start connecting that, and that'll allow me to cut parts of the live streams out and do them. So um, maybe it's quite possible. But I will try to stay in touch. I am going to ask my mods to kind of check the comments in everything regularly for a while, just to make sure no shenanigans happen while I'm gone. I'll have my phone, but I won't have any computers with me. So for the second half of the week. So I would appreciate if my mods would take care of that, and nom away on bad comments. So thank you very much for that. And I will see you all next week, Tuesday at Rabyd Fire. That'll probably be the next broadcast. It'll be a week from now or 2 weeks from now on Tuesdays. So that would be, hold on, let me get a date for that. That would be the 29th. So oh no, the 22nd. I'll see you guys the 22nd. So that'll be the next time I'll broadcast. So I'll see you then. So there's that. So absolutely. So once again, thanks for stopping by. And as always, live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. And so you want to make sure you take all your time, your money, your opportunities, and give them to yourself and to the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. And don't waste some of the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, folks, thanks for stopping by, and I will definitely catch you next time. Oh, hello. We'll end.